Okay, if you can let us know when we're online, please. Okay, good evening everyone. My name's Doug Chibnall, Mayor of the City of Clarence, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this special council meeting. We're sitting as a planning authority tonight to deal with the planning application. Could I ask you to stand for council prayer, please? Almighty God, we humbly beseech Thee to vouchsafe Thy blessing upon this council. Direct and prosper its deliberations to the achievement of Thy glory and the true welfare of the people of the City of Clarence. Amen. Could I also acknowledge the Tasmanian Aboriginal community as the traditional custodians of the land that we're meeting on tonight, and pay our respects to elders past and present. Thank you. I'd like to advise that we are again live streaming this meeting via YouTube, and a full copy of the agenda is available on Council's website. Also, Alderman Kennedy is participating online, and we will text her comments and voting to the GM as we have done previously with Alderman Bomley. With that, I note that we have no apologies, and that item 2 is declarations of interest of Alderman or close associate. Are there any declarations of interest? Thank you. Moving on to reports of officers. We have a development application for the upgrade of the East Derwent Highway and alterations to abutting roads and intersections. We have no representations tonight, so we move straight to the debate. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Thanks, Alderman Mulder. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Alderman Newington. Alderman Mulder.
I think it's fairly straightforward. I think this has been a long-awaited gap in the dual laning of the highway. I noticed that this particular section was originally left because it was to be the multi-grade intersection for the much desired Flagstaff Gully Link Road, which hasn't occurred. But by and large, the only comment that I really have to make is one of the representative issues relates to the bus stop at Araluen Street. This is a problematic issue because not only is it somewhat distant, as the representation says, but I've also had the representative approach me and talk about the fact that it's a commercial premises, that it's right outside, and the nature of Araluen Street, that means delivery trucks and things can't get into Araluen Street and have to go around, and therefore frequently park directly outside the commercial premises. And I'm just wondering if there's some way that that could be used as an argument for moving the bus stop, or DSG was being asked again if they would like to move the bus stop in that, due to those factors. It is if there's a bus there, or well, put it this way, if it's a bus stop there, a truck can't use it to offload material to the Araluen Street, and what that would do is we'll push trucks up into Araluen Street where they'll have all sorts of problems doing U-turns and turning around, and to do it. So I notice on the road reservation there is sufficient room on the other side of Araluen Street where I think it could be placed, or at least a little further up the road, so that remains vacant. So I'm just hoping that can be done. The only other comment I'd make, it's not directly related to this, but is this and the ferry trial the only transport traffic related projects that we have in the state budget for the City of Clarence? So what's happened to the Mornington roundabout, what's happened to the Richmond bypass, what's happened to the Gordons Hill Road ramps?
Thank you. Alderman Newey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, only a couple of brief comments. I think this would be great to have the long-awaited gap in the road network, improved, and it's pleasing to see that the this is setting a higher standard in relation to our paths and bike lanes and access for kids to get to and from school by riding bikes and walking. And I think that will certainly go a long way to improving, because of the size of the Lindisfarne North School now. A lot of kids riding their bikes there. Which I think, once we see that happen on some of our upgraded roads, such as the road from Tasman Highway, from South Arm Highway through from the shoreline up towards Pass Road now. You know, we've got that better standard, so seeing that expand through the city is a great thing, and hopefully we can see more of that happen. But I think this would be a great improvement to traffic, you know, for the city, and I, you know, we look forward to seeing it happen.
Thank you. Other speakers? Colin Jones?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to start by, first of all, congratulating the department in relation to this long-awaited highway or connection, or the dual lanes in north and south direction, because it's been on the agenda for a number of years, and I think it's well and truly overdue as far as that is concerned. I'd like to just pose a couple of questions through you to Mr Graham, in his capacity as Manager, Asset Management. Mr Graham, there was an earlier representation in relation to the resident who actually lives on the corner of Gilston Creek Road and also the where the traffic lights are being established. And it's a brick place, and it's actually borders on the creek, Gilston Creek, adjacent to Gilston Creek Road. Has there been provision for that in this plan for that resident to have access, direct access, either off heading in the southerly direction over the lights into his property? Alternatively, when he's obviously heading up in a northerly direction and you approach the lights, how is he able to turn into his property and access it as part of this proposal, please?
Through you, Mr Mayor, there's a few property owners along Gilston Creek Road which will have access onto Clinton Road. It is my understanding that they're going to provide a clear way across near this intersection, so the motorists can enter or exit Gilston Creek Road, but also there may be at times that they may have delays exiting that road. If there are vehicles at peak times when the lights are red, with a queue developing on Clinton Road.
Also, Mr Mayor, in relation to drainage, and in particular the large quantity of water that actually in the wet season, or when there is a very high downpour, that actually obviously comes down that drain adjacent to Gilston Creek Road. Has there, and I couldn't actually see it within the documentation, but is there some additional drainage work to cater for this at that intersection of East Derwent Highway and Gilston Creek Road?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I haven't been advised of any issues in terms of stormwater flows, so our engineers would have assessed that in terms of the engineering details provided and ensured that they had adequate provision considering the creek is going underneath through that area.
And my final question, Mr Mayor, is in relation to the what we call the new school access road, as shown on the diagram. How is it, and will there be any conflict with vehicles turning left into the school property, obviously at peak times as far as the children collection concerned, and also traffic that would actually go around that particular internal school roundabout to access De Montfort Lane, and then obviously down into De Montfort's Lane? Has there been any sort of assessment done in relation to any potential conflict between school parents users of that particular turning circle or that traffic turn entry for the school, and for those people and others that would need to access De Montfort Lane for any manner of reasons, namely there is a jetty there, there's school playgrounds, there's obviously the oval and so on. So is there any difficulty, or has there any perceived concern in relation to the school users of that particular turning circle and the other users, and visitors, etc., to Bomfords Lane on any particular activity, whether it's a football carnival or whatever, please.
Through you, Mr Mayor, DSG have done their traffic modelling to determine the queue length required on the East Derwent Highway, and if at any peak time that queue length does in a sense seem to exceed, anyone entering into De Bomfords Lane has the opportunity to go down further to the traffic light intersection and then come into via the new road to then go down De Bomfords Lane. So there's two accesses into that property for motorists to undertake during peak times.
I support the recommendation.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Right, Whipper.
Sorry.
Alderman Walker.
Look, thank you. Just get a couple of points on record. And firstly, I'd like to thank our planning officers and engineering staff who have small plates piled up with lots of things on them. But working through things, we've been and received a very comprehensive report that we sifted through. And I felt as I went along with that it provides us with increased comfort that this development isn't just something we know is necessary, but has been designed in a way that tackles a lot of, I guess if you like, smaller side effects that making it necessarily from 2 lanes to 4 lanes causes. So there was some talk earlier in the debate about what's happened infrastructure-wise in Clarence. I guess if we go back 10 years, within the last 10 years or even 5 years, you can think of the on and off ramps onto the bridge and the material benefits those have provided. Even the little off ramp that was put so that traffic coming down the East Derwent Highway from say Otago and wanting to continue down to Gilston Bay now doesn't have to cross the road. Little things like that made a big benefit. Those of us this year, and certainly the local community around Richmond, have really appreciated the bypass lane. And now this is coming before us, and it's a really necessary piece of infrastructure. I do have anxiety and concerns in the mornings when I see some of the parents banking up to turn right into Lindisfarne North. It's a 70 zone, cars are going from 2 lanes to 1, and it's a risk. And certainly I've seen a couple of really nasty crashes as people try to negotiate out of the Bomfords Lane, usually in the afternoons. And I take comfort from the improvement that this should provide residents between Araluen and Clinton's Road, that their lives have become very complicated when it comes to access and egress to their properties. Some of the concerns raised in the report were around things like, is it going to increase climate change concerns? I don't think that that's right. I think that this is, it's not a planning matter, but if it was, we would take into account the fact that there's less starting and stopping, so there's probably less build-ups of fumes and less energy expenditure around that. There were some concerns about the aesthetics and the natural impacts and whether certain trees should be put up and along it. Well, I don't think it's going to have a deleterious impact as far as the natural setting goes. And certainly we do take on board some of the frustrations that are experienced at the moment with people along Araluen Street. And I do take some comfort from the fact that the report notes there'll actually be some extra car parks between Clinton Road and Araluen Street. So I'm glad I didn't see reasons to not support it in the report and so far in the debate either. I think it's a solidly well thought out project. There was some fun and frivolity. There's always a carnival element in certain elections, and I take a little bit of pride in the fact that for all the joys of the Pembroke by-election, actually expediting the planning and design funding in this was an outcome that, irrespective of my own outcome, helped progress this along. So strongly encourage fellow aldermen to support this. It is much needed, and it is a really smart spend on the state's dime, so I hope it succeeds.
Thank you, Alderman Bromley.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And like Alderman Walker, I'd like to congratulate the officers on what is an outstanding report before us this evening. But also like to extend those thoughts to the DSG officials who have engaged so effectively over the past nearly 2+ years with the residents and business owners along the stretch of road. And I've received feedback from several of those that they've engaged with. That has, on the whole, been very positive, and I think that what we have here before us tonight is the best possible outcome at this stage. I travel this road, as many of us do regularly, but I travel this road several times a day usually, and we cannot understate the need to have this work commenced as soon as possible, particularly with regards to, as Alderman Walker mentioned, access to Lindisfarne Primary School. And I shudder some mornings as well as I drive past, and it is. There are accidents waiting to happen, and accidents have happened, and this will go a long way to make this stretch of road a great deal safer for the residents of Clarence. So it is, for those few words, Mr Mayor, that I am very firmly supportive of the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Other speakers? Right reply, everyone right?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I thank the members for their contribution. The only question is, have those, I didn't get any answers to my questions which related to any other Clarence traffic and road projects apart from this one, noting the fact that it's a 4-year budget outlook that this project is in, and that none of our other road projects appear to be, including the Mornington Roundabout, in the forward budget. So is that your understanding of it?
Look, that is outside their remit for this planning meeting.
Yes.
Happy to pursue it outside of the meeting at a later date.
Okay. The other one was, will the officers undertake to actually raise those issues in relation to the bus depot and the transport issues?
I'm sure we can ensure that those issues are raised.
They have been raised previously, Alderman Moller.
No, the issues were raised about in the context of the distance of walking to the bus stop, not its location outside a commercial premises where it's required for transport.
Sorry, I misunderstood the question. Yes, we can raise those issues with DSG.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I commend the motion.
So the officer's recommendation is approval subject to conditions and advice. All those in favour? The motion is carried unanimously. I declare the meeting. Oh, sorry, we need one from.
Alderman Kennedy votes in favour as well.
Thank you. I now declare it's carried unanimously and declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much.